Welcome, everybody, to another iteration of Let's Take Five, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema, and we sort of break down five of their movies and talk about why they're so great. Hence the title, Let's Take Five. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And today we are continuing our very recent tradition, as in the very last podcast we did, of not doing a person, but doing a brain trust. That's the word Austin used, and I'm sticking with it. The brain trust is that of Pixar. The first film that we covered on this five was Toy Story. The next film that we'll cover is Wall-E. The next film is Up, and then the film after that is Inside Out. But today we are talking about The Incredibles. The Incredibles is the 2004 film directed by Brad Bird, which is a film about a family of superheroes. Well, two superheroes in specific, Mr. Incredible and his good friend at the time, Elastigirl, who he has a flirty relationship with. They end up falling in love, having children. Superheroes are outlawed. You've seen Watchmen. Basically the same plot.
Oh, it's very much Watchmen. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same plot of that, essentially. But then they eventually have kids together. So it's basically cuts to a modern day where these two superheroes, Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible, live a very ordinary life since being a superhero has been outlawed, where they're raising children. And they're like a middle-class American family. But the drive to be a superhero is still there. And the main person, Mr. Incredible, he ends up going on these illegal missions to help save people as Mr. Incredible in the night. And this eventually gets him into trouble because he runs into a kid from his younger superhero days who always looked up to him and wanted to be a sidekick, who is now a supervillain, who has made it his life's work to basically crush Mr. Incredible, and now his family as well. And I think that is about the plot of the film. Did I miss anything, Austin?
Nope, that's good.
I mean, Samuel L. Jackson's in it as the cool ice superhero.
Yeah.
And then there's that. This is kind of interesting. This was the boat I missed on superhero, or not superhero, Pixar films. Like, it was like a time where I watched them because I was young, and then there was a time where I missed them because I was too old for them, or at least what I thought. And then now I'm in that phase where I've gone back to them because I watched them because they're good movies.
Yeah.
Incredibles slipped through the cracks. I didn't see this movie when it came out.
Yes, 2004.
Yeah.
Right now, I still have the very weird trend of I've still seen every Pixar film in theaters, which is cool, except for Cars 3 is coming out, and I'm now probably going to go see that in theaters. I just feel sad.
Are you just seeing it because...
It's a trend now.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the other ones coming out, but not really Cars 3. No, this one is really curious. I mean, this is Brad Bird, and this is someone who was not part of the original kind of brain trust. He wasn't there at Pixar's origin because he made the very beloved film, The Iron Giant. It's more, I think it was with the studio, but not like a big studio like Disney.
Yeah.
And this was him coming into the Pixar family. He is the sole writer in this movie as well. It's really curious. It's really, it takes the Watchmen concept, but whereas Watchmen goes to a very political element to it and kind of questions government and institutions and fear-mongering and power distribution.
And the First Amendment.
This one really kind of goes into an oppression in a very kind of personal way. It's a family movie first, and people have now called this almost an unofficial Fantastic Four movie. Because I never read any Fantastic Four comics. People seem to really appreciate how that is a family of superheroes. In a very
the
family
Fantastic
way.
Four. It's a good place to start off with. Unfortunately, all the movies have been terrible.
Yeah.
But Fantastic Four basically kept comics alive in the Silver Age of comics. They were the hottest ticket in town. And that's throwing in Batman and throwing in Spider-Man and all that stuff. Fantastic Four was extraordinarily popular and basically had its best run in sort of the Silver Age. So, that's apt.
And it's curious because when I watched it this time, I really focused on Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl as parents, because Mr. Incredible is someone who's obviously very uncomfortable with being a civilian. He was only comfortable being the guy jumping out of buildings, saving the day and whatnot. And even when you see him in his debt and insurance job, he is a giant, muscular, he's the Rock in the smallest cubicle. and being bossed around by someone who goes up to his ankle. Voiced by Wallace Shawn, brilliantly.
Of course.
And one of the few repeat voices in Pixar, because he's Rex in Toy Story.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's Rex in Toy Story. That's right. I forgot about that.
But so it's always like so. I love these like the early dinner scene when he is so impressed that his son Dash did this prank and was brought into the principal's office for running from the back of the classroom to put a pin on the teacher's chair and then runs back because he has super speed. Mm-hmm. And you see him; he's so proud of his son. Partly because he gets to use powers that he's not supposed to be using. Mm-hmm. But also, I think there is a great affection as a parent to say, my son can do something extraordinary that no one else can do. And I think it really hurts him that his kids can't do that.
Yeah, and the conflicts between the two parents arise because Elastigirl is trying to, as a mother, she's trying to keep them ordinary. Yeah. For their future and for their family's safety. And you know, she is adapted better to life as being ordinary.
Yeah.
And she understands those are the rules that they live in. She's more responsible in that regard, whereas Mr. Incredible, he's very proud of his son for doing something, even breaking the rules, because he is special and he has this special ability. But it pits what that ends up doing is, and then you see a lot of their marital problems arise from this, is that situation always puts her, Elastigirl, in a place where she has to be the bad guy.
Yeah, which is not fair.
Which is not fair. She has to be the bad guy parent because he's the one that lets them be who they are, and she's the one for their own benefit trying to keep them normal.
And the screenplay is really cool in a way that it's structured as they're essentially telling their kids to kind of hold back these special elements, be ordinary, be normal. You have this guy named Buddy at the beginning of the story who wants to be Mr. Incredible's sidekick. And his reckless actions, he has no powers or anything, his interference with Mr. Incredible causes, you know, major destruction and whatnot. And Mr. Incredible kind of keeps yelling at him, "Buddy, you're not special. Go home." And that sort of negative influence on the psyche of just kind of telling him, "You're not special. You're not worth anything," now has him expanding what's happening inside the Incredibles household towards everyone, saying, "I'm going to create a robot to make nobody special. I want to give basically everyone almost, you know, non-magical powers, like, you know, just kind of cool weapons or whatever, Iron Man setting kind of thing." But he wants to expand. He wants to make everybody special, thus nobody special.
Yeah, and maybe that's like gets at sort of the deeper themes the movie may actually be trying to touch on. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly what that would be, other than some of us are special and some of us aren't, but we can either live in a society where people are special or live in a society where everyone isn't. And which one would you rather live in?
I think it's true. I think it's all about the approach, because I mean, I think the film is critiquing Mr. Incredible at the beginning for how he treated Buddy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was...
Yes, no, it definitely does. It does.
And so I think that element of, if you would have nurtured him towards something, like anything productive, this negativity wouldn't have happened. And if you're going to keep telling the fastest kid of all time that you shouldn't run, where could that lead to? Like, there's a line that I love when, like, saying, "Yeah, we have to go to Dash's, like, 4th grade graduation." 4th grade graduation, we're celebrating new levels of mediocrity.
Yeah, no, it's true. No, it's true.
Yeah, if we keep doing that, everyone has something great about them. Shine on that. And
it kind of comes to a head late in the film. It's sort of the film's epilogue, where Dash is now allowed to be on the track team, but they're all saying, "Come in second." Yeah. Come in second, because he could just kill the guy.
But he's so happy to be in there.
Yeah, exactly, and actually be out there competing. It is sort of the happy medium too. But again, he could have won gold, but either out of sportsmanship or something to do with the deeper themes that the movie's getting at when it comes to people that are talented or gifted in ways that certainly will never be, to hold back and reserve and to help up the people that sort of aren't.
Yeah. I think also in a really interesting way, the action scenes reflect that as well. Because as they're now in the jungle at the end, and it's all four of them having to stop robots and minions and stop Buddy, aka Syndrome, from doing these things, there's never a sense of, like, they all have four different powers, incredible strength, she's elastic, Dash can run really fast, and Violet can turn invisible, but also she can create force fields, much like the Invisible Woman in Fantastic Four. So what's kind of awesome is you kind of just keep seeing every single power used in a unique way. It's all happening quickly. They're being combined in an organic way. Like, you would think that Violet's a very, like, passive defensive power that becomes very essential as she's able to create these force fields, or also when Dash makes the ball of them whatnot as they're running.
Yeah, and
it's so organically done. It's awesome.
I assume that type of thing is kind of like a animator's wet dream, is like to like gather, like, okay, how are we know all their powers, how are we going to use those effectively? And in a movie that is supposed to be family oriented and about a family sort of finding themselves and banding together, and then literally doing that with their superpowers, and how that sort of plays out, how much fun that can be. Because they all, it's not all of them singularly taking something on. I mean, you do see Mr. Incredible do that a lot. But when they're all as a group, it's a combined forces and what they can do, which is what Fantastic Four did, too. And, we should point out that Mr. Fantastic, we have a Mr. Incredible in this, but Mr. Fantastic could stretch out, Elastigirl could stretch out, too.
Yeah.
And then they're helped by the sidekick of the family, which is the Samuel L. Jackson character.
Frozone.
Frozone, which is essentially Iceman from X-Men. It's the same power.
Yeah.
So... and that's cool too, because it gives someone, because Mr. Incredible as our protagonist, it gives someone outside of his wife and outside of his marriage to sort of bounce his emotions off of as well. And because he's allowed to grieve about not being able to use his superheroes in front of him, which is something he cannot do with his wife.
Yeah. And I love the scene where they're basically listening to play scanners and they're trying to do something. How much it kind of really implies that Frozone is just doing it because he feels bad for his friend. Like, he has that great line of, when we tell our wives that we're going bowling, we can actually go bowling.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was really great, too.
Because, they're awesome, but he's not missing that as much. He kind of... It seems like that character is really kind of more of, when the duty calls for it, I will be there, but I don't personally need it as much as... the Parr family, or really Mr. Incredible, just Bob Parr,
mainly
needs it.
Mainly him. But we all know people in our life like that, right? I have friends, in my life who seem to have trouble putting away college, like, glory days or whatnot, or I go out with friends that we spend more time reminiscing on good times that we had than actually trying to make the good time we could currently be having in whatever situation we're in. And sometimes I commiserate. I fall in the middle of that. Sometimes I commiserate. Sometimes I get sick of it as well. There's only so many times you can hear the same damn story 10 times, no matter how funny it is.
Well, it seems to all be centered around the idea of identity, which is always a great motif in superhero stories. Because as you're reliving your glory day, you are identifying with... That was the best version of myself. That is the picture of you have of, me at this year was me at my best. Mm-hmm. That means you are uncomfortable with you in present day. And especially now when you have a mask and not a mask on, you're watching these characters being hard to be comfortable in the regular day because they're being forbidden from being their full self. Mm-hmm. At the end, they're allowed to be themselves in a new way. And it looks like there's kind of a new dawn happening a little bit.
Yeah, no, and
because even like Violet, who's the most insecure character, which means she gets the great metaphorical power of turning invisible as an awkward high school student.
Yeah, well, the character, and I think if there were flaws that I had with the movie, I think it probably lives somewhere in the archetypes of the children and the villain. Just because he's the bratty younger brother, Dash.
Sure.
And she's the insecure
it's not revolutionary at all.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like I can live with that. No need to go too deep for it for what it is. It's just that for it being an animated Pixar film or whatever, it's just that they have done that and they will do that after this and to great effect with characters like Up, Jesus. Every single one of those characters, including Kevin the bird, gets. There's more to it, Sure. There's more behind the veil, and this movie doesn't have that so much. In the moments where it does have it, they're a little tired because you have the villain is he was scorned when he was a kid by Mr. Incredible.
It's true.
So now
it's a very cause and effect element. It's more thematic than it does kind of plotting wise because I think it's a bit of an annoying villain. Although I do enjoy the self-awareness the movie has about its genre because it does that great sequence of no capes, which is now legendary, but also
which they took from Watchmen.
The cape sequence?
Well, yeah, because in Watchmen, I can't remember the character's name. I think it was like Mothman or something like that. Whenever the superhero era came to an end, Mothman got trying to stop some bank robbers. In the revolving door at the bank, he got his cape caught in the door, so they just shot him and killed him in the door.
I totally forgot that.
Yeah, so that foreshadowing was a bit.
Yeah, sure.
It was. You knew the villain was going to die because he was going to get his cape stuck in something. Yeah, like they mentioned it 5 times. No capes,
but they also the other thing that they do in this movie that kind of has some traction to it is recognizing the monologuing that James Bond villains love to do. Mm-hmm. And I do love Jason Lee's performance as the villain because he's like, "You caught me monologuing again, you son of a gun."
that is good. And one moment I thought was done pretty effectively too is anytime loved ones are killed in movies, I haven't got to know them really well. I hate it when television shows or movies react like they know how I haven't got to know them, so the characters don't react too much. Mm-hmm. The basic example I can point to is Luke Skywalker's reaction to the death of his uncle and aunt in Star Wars. He has one scene where he's sad, and then they're never talked about again, basically. Yeah. Yet with Obi-Wan, who he's known for about 5 minutes, he is really torn up about Obi-Wan's death a lot more so. Mm-hmm. And he spent his whole life growing up with his parents. Or his uncle and aunt. So, you think he would be more upset. Now, to get to so in this film, about right before the halfway point, when Elastigirl and the family goes to save Mr. Incredible after he's been captured by Syndrome, they get blown up, and he thinks they're dead. And he gets dark and sad until they're alive, and we know they're alive.
It's done so well because we see that they survived in a really cool way where she basically turns herself into a balloon because she turns herself that thin. Again, this film I never would have guessed that being stretchy would be the most useful power because she gets all the cool stuff to do.
Yeah.
But I love it later on, when they reunite and they hug and they're happy and whatnot, and she's like, why'd you lie about this? Which is, he did lie to her about all this stuff. Yeah. But he just says in a way that the audience almost forgot, I thought you guys were dead.
Yeah.
He's so he was so horrified that his entire family was just murdered in a way every other action film would just dismiss that thing.
That's what
Yeah, he brings that back up and you hear that from his eyes, so he's looking into his wife's eyes and oh my god, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and Luke never ever brings up Uncle Owen or Aunt Beru again.
Yeah.
So that's always something that kind of bothers me is when characters we as the audience got to spend more time with Obi-Wan Kenobi, so that's who Luke's going to care about. That always bothers me. This movie, because most of the focus on this film, they really hadn't got to use their powers yet. Only Mr. Incredible we've got to see really use his powers yet. We aren't attached to them like that, but they still treated him like he was a family. He just lost his family, which was really important.
I think also the hardest part for so many superhero stories is when you have younger or especially sibling characters, you don't want them in harm's way, but the audience wants them to be in the action scenes.
Yes.
So they did a very smart job, okay, you two stay here, I'm going to go get your dad, in a very, rational way, because they snuck on board and such. But once the going gets tough, they kind of recognize they all need each other, and as, their basic instincts as superheroes forever, treat them as a team in a really strong way. They still, obviously try and protect everybody because they love everybody, but letting everybody take part in like the big robot battle and such is great, because we don't want to have like someone going like, "No, Robin, you can't be in this one." No, if you're gonna put him in a cave, let him go out there.
Let him go out there. Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I think the movie did a great job of illustrating all the characters. They came to a point where they felt like they could trust each other, which was a trust is not something the family had at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
So they had to trust each other, to rely on one another, to save each other's lives, because the movie illustrates, I think, quite effectively that without one of them, they all would have died.
Yeah.
So.
And the action scenes are so dynamic and awesome because everything's happening at once. Because there's animation, we should have more animated superhero movies, because it's all the same budget. You can go crazy with these kind of things.
Well, and I was thinking that whenever you were talking about Elastigirl getting a lot of the cool stuff in the movie was because, the animators is like, dude, I got a girl that can stretch from here to here. I'm going to do some, crazy things like when her fight scenes or whatever might come up.
They're so cool.
Yeah, and they are. Like, there's a scene where she's stuck in two doors, and she's stretched out like a Dachshund wiener dog, and she's fighting the people behind her butt, and she's fighting the people in front of her.
Yeah,
and
she's kicking them, and
yeah, exactly. And it's really cool. I was wondering, like, how far can she stretch?
Yeah.
Like, because in the movie, there seems to be no limit to how far she can actually stretch.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what do you think, man?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for a sequel.
Yeah.
Because it is more than any other Pixar film, it has the basis for more stories.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I'm really, because like this is the one sequel everyone's been begging for Pixar, and they finally announced that Brad Bird's come back to direct it himself. His last Pixar film was Ratatouille. Then he went on to make some live-action films.
I liked Ratatouille, actually.
Me too, I like Ratatouille a lot.
I think I liked Ratatouille probably more than The Incredibles, but I forget about it easier.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like, it's pretty forgettable to me, yet I like the film a lot.
Me too. I really enjoy Ratatouille, although it's, honestly, it's just me. Him pulling hair and controlling the body is like a step too far. I can deal with talking mice for some reason, but I can't deal with an actual puppeteering. Yeah. Like, it's not a metaphor. He's actually puppeteering the guy.
Yeah.
So that throws me off. But then Anton Ego does the speech at the end. I don't give a shit about it. It's all perfect.
Yeah.
But also Brad Bird, he did Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which was maybe the best one, and Tomorrowland, which I still haven't seen yet. But I will, probably.
At some point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hopeful to it, too. I mean, when Pixar makes missteps, it's usually with their sequels, I guess, so...
It's the Toy Story sequels have been really strong.
Of course, that.
The other ones, Cars 2 is terrible. Monsters University is mediocre. Finding Dory's fine. Closer to mediocre than great. So nothing to embarrass the franchise yet, except for Cars.
But Cars
started off poor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it was the worst launching off point.
Yeah.
I think Incredibles 2 sequel, unlike the other films, I look at an Incredible, and this is, I guess, kind of what you're getting at. I look at an Incredible sequel as something that could potentially be better.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think a sequel to Finding Nemo was ever going to be better, and I don't even like Finding Nemo all that much. I just feel like that idea, I think it was that, and that was fine.
Well, and it's because I am not a huge origin story fan, and this is a very rare first installment that doesn't feel like an origin story.
Yeah.
Partly because Mr. Incredible, who is our main character, has been a superhero forever. He's not discovering his powers. He just didn't get recently bit by a spider. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing. It's kind of the origin is the family as a full unit,
or them getting back into it as opposed to starting off.
Even the kids know what they are. The only person who doesn't know the powers is the baby, who seems to have some sort of like crazy demonic shape-shifting thing at the end, which is just really funny.
Because they thought Jack's the baby that day, because it's so weird. Yeah. They thought that Jack didn't have any powers. Yeah. I thought that was interesting, too, is they could have children that don't have powers.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
And they were that idea, but that is one, because Pixar also does great shorts with all their films. Mm-hmm. We didn't mention it with Toy Story, but the Gerald's game.
Which one was that?
That's the chess game the old man's playing.
I don't remember that one.
It premiered in front of the movie, and it's maybe my favorite one, where it's him playing, and he just keeps like standing from the table, and he's just playing himself. So this is this old man who he's playing the chess game, moves the piece, slowly walks over there, but then the editing keeps getting faster as like the two versions of himself keep like taunting him as they keep playing.
No.
It's really funny.
I like the alien one.
The alien one, when they're trying to like abduct the guy?
Yeah, they can't do it.
Yeah, they have trouble. It's because the new guy, yeah.
Yeah, what movie did that play for? Do you remember?
Oof.
I'm just curious.
Can't remember.
Maybe it was
It's one of the later ones.
I think it was
yeah.
Up.
But this one, I think it was actually made on the DVD, but they made a short film that took place during The Incredibles of what the babysitter was doing during the whole ending sequence of Jack just like turning to everything and losing his mind. Because you hear all of her voicemails of like, something's happening here. Yeah. So you get to watch just utter chaos as Jack basically burns down the house.
What about Jack, man? What about that name?
I think his name might just be Jack. Yeah. But he's a baby, so they call him Jack.
Yeah, he's funny.
There's no way they're actually calling him Jack.
I feel better about the film having actually talked it out. Looking at this list of five, it was this and another film I'm worried about. So I'm happy to rewatch them. This one's coming out more in the wash as we're talking about it. The other one I'm hoping will improve with having spent some time off of it. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah, we're going to find out very soon.
Next week we will be reviewing WALL-E, and everything goes according to plan. We should have a guest on that episode. It should. She's agreed to it. But I don't want to jinx it.
Okay.
Stay tuned next week.
Okay.
And until then, you can leave us a comment at thearttomorrow.com. You can tell us what you think about The Incredibles. What do you hope for a sequel? I hope they don't bring back Syndrome. I want a new villain. I don't want Syndrome in it at all.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the only thing I want, I guess.
Yeah, he was probably the thing I cared about the least on there. I mean, it was interesting because he didn't have superpowers or whatever, but do something different.
Something brand new.
Yeah.
So we'll hear what you think about that. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod. You can leave us an iTunes review, which we'd really appreciate. More people can find the show that way. You can go to The Art Immortal and find other podcasts. The Immortals, that's the podcast where myself and 4 others, we review one of the 1001 movies, albums, songs, foods, children's books, and TV shows you must consume before you die. Yesterday we reviewed the Ingrid Bergman film Voyage to Italy and the TV show Three's Company. So that was probably fun.
Those are contrasting.
There you are, yes. And also, because January 3rd is hit now, there's a new episode of Ad Absurdum out. It comes out the 3rd day of every month, and this episode they talked about The Truman Show. Because apparently, you can't own a person like that. And so those lawyers will tell you about all the issues that goes with corporations owning people. That'll be a lot of fun. Where else can we find you, Eric?
You can find me at Constant Aversion. That's my YouTube channel. Check me out on there, and I hope to see you all out there.
And welcome to 2017. We're looking forward to a year of podcasting. We have some picks lined up, some really cool films on the horizon, and we thank you all for listening to us.
Yeah, it's about to get pretty heavy. Actually, no, we're doing Pixar. But after that, it's going to get really heavy.
We're going to have an apocalyptic planet, dead relatives, and sadness coming up, so a little bit.
We've all been there. My name's Eric Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Wait, you want to make me a suit?
You push too hard, darling, but I accept. It will be bold, dramatic, heroic.
Yeah, something classic, like Dyna Guy. Oh, he had a great look. Oh, the cape and the boots.
No capes.
Isn't that my decision?
Do you remember Thunderhead? Tall, storm powers. Nice man, good with kids.
Listen.
November 15th of 58. All was well, another day saved, when his cape snagged on a missile pin.
Thunderhead was not the brightest bulb.
Stratogale, April 23rd, 57. Cape caught in a jet turbine.
You can't generalize about this.
Metaman, express elevator. Dyna Guy, snag on takeoff. Splashdown, sucked into a vortex. No kicks.